Thank you for joining us. Are you ready to breathe, move, and flow? Today you will be led through a Pilates class that focuses on discovering your values.
Let's begin with our knees bent, seated up tall with a light grip over our shins. Begin to round the spine to flexion, and then sit up tall again into extension. Use the abdominals to round the spine into a C shape with a slight tuck of the pelvis underneath your hips. And now extend the spine to sit up tall again. Focus on finding your center and core strength to sit up tall.
We all have values. We never finish our values. Our goals can be accomplished and completed, yet our values are never ending.
C curve with toe tap. Round the spine into flexion. Keep the hands light across the shins and begin to hover one leg to tabletop and then the other. Begin lowering one foot down to touch the floor, but keep the angle of the knee the same as the leg moves. Now lift the leg back up to tabletop and switch. You may lower the elbows down to the floor for more support for balance. We'll do 5 on each side and then roll all the way down to lay on the floor in supine.
Our values are created and shaped as children, influenced by our culture, family, and friends. Take a moment to tune into some of your values. Our values fall into 4 categories: relationships, leisure, worker education, and personal health. You may want to choose a category to focus on for today's class.
Supine lateral flexion. Legs stay long. Interlace the fingers beneath the head and now chest lift up. Keep the head, neck, and shoulders rounded and begin to tick-tock the upper body. The right elbow will sink towards the right hip. The shoulders will pass back over the pelvis, and then the left elbow will sink toward the left hip.
When contemplating your values, considering what really matters to you, what makes you feel whole, comfortable, and secure.
Butterfly chest lift. Clap the soles of the feet together and let the knees open wide. Arms lengthen straight up and the index fingers and thumbs will meet to form a diamond. Now, chest lift up, reaching the arms long over the ankles, and slowly reverse the movement back down again. Keep an energetic press between both soles of your feet throughout the movement.
Bringing to mind a value from the category of your choosing. Imagine a time where you lived in line with that value. How did you know you were living in line with your values? What feeling signified that truth for you?
Crisscross, knees to table. Hands are going to interlace behind the head again. Extend the right leg and twist towards the bent knee. Now switch. Keep the upper back curled away from the mat as you transition through center. The pelvis stays still throughout.
In that time when you lived in line with that value, who was around you? What did you see? What did you smell? What did you taste? What did you feel? And what did you hear?
Kneeling sidekick. Sit on the left hip and the left hand with the left hand outside the hip. Lift the hips into a modified plank and float the top leg out to extension. Now begin to kick the leg forward and back, adding the traditional double kick as the leg travels forward. We're isolating the movement to the top leg here. Everything else stays still.
At times we tend to live more in line with our values than other times. Sometimes our values compete for priority. What would your life be like if you made one small change to live more in line with your values? Imagine yourself making that change.
Side plank. Come down to your left forearm and lift the hip for your first side plank. You have the option to keep the knees bent if you'd like to modify, or extend both legs out and stack the ankles for an extra challenge. Let's hover the left hip away and hold that static plank.
Imagine a friend that is struggling with their values. What advice would you give that friend? What would it be like if you took that advice yourself? With your hands tapping on your hips, the ground, legs, or wherever you feel comfortable, tap in that advice, adding in keywords to strengthen that value.
Let's switch. Side bending. Sit on your right hip with the knees and the ankles stacked. Sit up on your right hip with the hand outside of your hip on the floor. Push into the floor with the right hand to lift the hip away and to hover away from the floor. The left arm will stretch up and over the body so that the body forms a crescent shape at the top of the movement. Now slowly lower the hips back down and extend the reaching arm out to a T. As the hips hover, you're wrapping the muscles along the left side of your ribs and elongating the upper obliques to side bend over.
Now think about a person in your life that welcomes your values and helps nourish your values. What feelings do you have around that person? What qualities does this person hold? How has this person helped you, or how could this person or these people help you? What expression is on this person's face as they speak to you? People need people. We are social beings. We need each other.
Thigh stretch. Kneeling with the arms elongated in front of you. Lean back over your heels, keeping the front of the body long. Now use your quads to sit back up. My feet are pointed against my mat and my glutes are engaged.
Activating your senses. What do you notice in your body as you lean in towards your values? What are you feeling? Integrate that feeling of you with your values.
Kneeling sidekick. Sit on your right hip with the right hand outside the hip. Lift the hips into a modified plank and then float the top leg out to extension. Now begin to kick the leg forward and back, adding the traditional double kick as we did on the other side as the leg travels forward, and then sweeping it straight back. We're isolating the movement to the top hip here. Everything else stays still.
As your mind naturally begins to wander, inviting your thoughts back to this present moment, this moment you set aside to discover your values.
Side plank. Come down to your right forearm, your right hip to hover, or your right forearm and your right hip to hover the hips away in our plank. Think about cinching the underbody along the right rib when going into the plank. Keep the shoulders and the hips stacked.
The stories we tell ourselves are the stories that shape our lives. Our language creates our reality. Practice speaking kindly to yourself through your broad range of experiences.
Side bend. Sit on your left hip with the left hand outside your hip on the floor. Push into the floor with the left hand to lift the hip away and to hover away from the floor. The right arm will stretch up and over the body so that the body forms a crescent shape at the top of the movement. Now slowly lower the hips back down and extend the reaching arm out to a T. As the hips hover, you're still sensationalizing the muscles along the left side of your ribs, and you're still focusing on elongating the obliques.
Imagine yourself in the future, making choices that incorporate your values. Imagine what you are doing. Imagine you are doing what you want to do in line with your values. Imagine in as much detail as possible.
Reverse crunch. Lay in supine. Knees to tabletop and arms extended by your sides. Begin to rock the hips away from the floor, curling the spine to tuck the knees in towards your chin during a reverse crunch, and then melting the spine back down to the floor.
As you participate in this pose, notice what comes up for you in the moments of quiet.
Roll over. Continue to lay in supine. Lift the legs to table and begin to extend them up toward the sky. Now use the abdominals to peel the hips away. Roll up to the base of your shoulders and then reverse the movement back down. As your hips leave the earth, I'm reaching my legs and toes straight up, pressing the backs of my arms into the floor, and then rolling back down the center of my spine with control.
Thank you for exploring this Pilates class wave today. We hope it guides you through the rest of your day. If you like this class, please provide us with a thumbs up, a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any Mind and Body Pilates, a wellness approach classes.